The Bears game didn't announce itself as a controversy. There was no immediate disaster, no opening drive meltdown, no early blowout that signaled something had gone terribly wrong. Instead, it unfolded quietly, almost patiently, as if waiting for people to notice the details. And once those details became impossible to ignore, the conversation shifted from football to something far more complicated. Expectation hung over that game long before the first snap. This was supposed to be another step forward, another checkpoint in a season framed around growth and evaluation. It was supposed to be a night where lessons were learned and progress was measured. Instead, it became a night that forced fans to ask uncomfortable questions about systems, authority, confidence, and control. When Shedeur Sanders threw his first interception, it didn't feel catastrophic. It was a timing route over the middle, a split second late, a defender breaking cleanly on the ball. The kind of play that happens every single week in the NFL. Quarterbacks throw that interception all the time. But this one landed differently. Shedeur Sanders does not exist in the same space as most quarterbacks. Every snap he takes carries context far beyond the play itself. His confidence is visible. His presence is unmistakable. His career has been followed long before he ever stepped into a professional huddle. That attention shapes perception. It shapes reaction, and it shapes blame. Instead of immediately turning on the quarterback, many fans instinctively looked elsewhere. They looked at the play design. They looked at the timing of the call. They looked at the structure of the offense and asked whether it was built to support the kind of quarterback Shedeur is. That's when Kevin Stefanski's name became central to the conversation. Stefanski is a coach defined by discipline and structure. His offenses are designed around timing, precision, and trust in the system. Quarterbacks in his scheme are asked to operate within clearly defined boundaries. The ball comes out on schedule. The read is made quickly. Improvisation is not the foundation, it's the exception. Shedeur Sanders thrives on belief. Belief in himself. Belief in his arm. Belief that he can make throws others won't attempt. That confidence is his greatest strength. But it can also clash with systems that prioritize restraint over expression. Against the Bears, that clash felt immediate. The opening concepts were not forgiving. The reads were layered. The windows were tight. There was little room for error. And when error arrived, it was punished without hesitation. Fans watching didn't feel like the offense was easing into the game. It felt like it was demanding execution at a high level from the very beginning. After the first interception, attention shifted to the sideline. Camera shots lingered on Stefanski. His expressions were analyzed. His posture was scrutinized. Fans began reading body language as if it were a coded message. This is how suspicion begins. Not with evidence, but with interpretation. As the game progressed, the Bears' defense grew more confident. Safeties rotated late. Linebackers showed one look and delivered another. Passing lanes that appeared open vanished in an instant. This is high-level defensive football, but timing matters. When a quarterback is already pressing, deception becomes a trap. The second interception came from exactly that dynamic. The coverage before the snap suggested opportunity. The coverage after the snap told a different story. Shedeur trusted what he saw early. The safety arrived first. The ball was intercepted. This moment changed the tone of the conversation completely. Fans were no longer just concerned. They were angry. They questioned why the offense continued attacking the same areas of the field. They asked why there weren't quicker throws, safer concepts, or plays designed simply to restore rhythm. They wondered why the difficulty level never seemed to drop. To many, it felt like the quarterback was being tested instead of supported. And that distinction matters. Some coaches believe quarterbacks must be protected. They believe confidence is fragile and that early mistakes can spiral into long-term damage if not addressed carefully. Other coaches believe quarterbacks must be tested. They believe adversity reveals truth. They believe growth requires discomfort. Kevin Stefanski has always leaned toward the latter philosophy. To him, exposure is information. It's how you learn what a quarterback can handle. To fans, exposure can look like indifference. It can look like neglect. It can look like setting someone up to fail. Perspective defines reality. As the game wore on, frustration deepened. Fans waited for visible adjustments. They looked for rollouts to change launch points. They looked for screens to slow the pass rush. They looked for quick game concepts to settle the offense. When those changes weren't obvious, belief hardened into accusation. By the time the third interception arrived, the narrative was already set. This interception came late. The team was trailing. The clock was shrinking. The defense knew a pass was coming. Under pressure, Shedeur forced a throw that wasn't there. It was intercepted, effectively closing the door on the game. This moment felt inevitable to many watching. Not because Shedeur is reckless, but because it felt like he had been placed in a position where desperation was the only option left. Fans didn't see this as a lack of discipline. They saw it as the result of a night with no relief, and that's when the word sabotage began circulating more openly. Sabotage is not a casual accusation. It implies intent. It implies that failure was engineered, not accidental. That's a serious claim, and it deserves careful consideration. There is no direct evidence that Kevin Stefanski wanted Shedeur Sanders to fail. There is no play on tape designed to guarantee turnovers. There is no leaked audio suggesting malicious intent. What exists is something far more common in professional sports: a philosophical collision. Shedeur Sanders represents confidence, visibility, and a modern quarterback identity that embraces individuality. Kevin Stefanski represents structure, discipline, and a belief in system-first football. When those two forces collide, every decision feels loaded. Fans see a quarterback they believe in. They see potential. They see a future they want to protect. When that future appears threatened, they react emotionally. History fuels that reaction. NFL fans have seen too many quarterbacks fail not because of talent, but because of environment. They've seen players rushed. They've seen systems misaligned. They've seen confidence erode until it never returns. That collective memory shapes how people interpret moments like this. So when Shedeur struggles, fans don't just see a bad game. They see a warning sign. Kevin Stefanski becomes a symbol. Not necessarily a villain, but a representation of everything fans fear: rigidity, control, a system that doesn't bend for the player. But symbols are not the same as reality. The reality is complicated. Development is messy. Evaluation is uncomfortable. Growth is rarely gentle. Coaches are forced to make decisions that will anger someone no matter what they choose. Shedeur Sanders is still early in his journey. One game does not define him. 3 interceptions do not erase his talent. What matters most is what happens next. Does the offense evolve? Does communication improve? Does trust deepen or fracture? Those answers will determine whether this night becomes a footnote or a turning point. Football is not just about schemes and coverages. It's about belief. Belief between coaches and players. Belief between systems and individuals. Belief between fans and the future they imagine. The Bears game shook that belief, not because of the final score, but because it forced everyone watching to confront a difficult question. Was this simply a young quarterback learning under pressure? Or was this a system demanding answers at the highest possible cost? The truth likely exists somewhere between those extremes, and that uncertainty is why the conversation refuses to die. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching highlights. You're listening for what's beneath the surface. You're questioning narratives. You're thinking about football beyond the box score. And that's what Gridiron Whispers is all about. If you want more deep dives, more hidden stories, and more conversations the mainstream doesn't slow down enough to have, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who loves football the way you do, and subscribe to Gridiron Whispers. Because the loudest stories aren't always the most important ones. Sometimes the real truth lives in the whispers.